Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some absolutely fascinating material that tackles one of the greatest mysteries in 3D art. I mean, have you ever watched a top-tier animated film and just wondered how on earth they make polygons and pixels feel like living, breathing, thinking creatures? It literally feels like magic, right? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're going to look at the actual architecture behind that magic, exploring a game-changing framework known as the Asymmetric Keyframe Protocol.
Okay, let's dive into this. So, what actually separates a stiff, robotic animation from one that feels undeniably, intuitively alive? Look, if you've ever dabbled in 3D animation, you've almost certainly hit that wall. You know, where your character moves, but it kind of feels like a cheap animatronic at a rundown theme park. You sit there staring at the timeline for hours, tweaking, desperately trying to find that missing ingredient, that secret recipe to breathe actual life into your scene.
And it is incredibly common to fall into a massive trap right here. People just naturally assume they need, more complex character rigs with hundreds of facial bones or outrageously expensive industry software, or they just try packing the timeline with hundreds of extra keyframes hoping it smooths things out. But the reality? It's profoundly simpler, yet so much more powerful. It isn't a better rig. It's not expensive software, and it definitely isn't just spamming more keyframes. The real difference, the absolute secret ingredient, is simply how those keyframes are placed. So, here is our roadmap for mastering this today. First, we'll look at the robotic animation problem. Second, asymmetry as a creative methodology. Third, a step-by-step offset workflow. Fourth, refining timing and emotion. And fifth, why this workflow actually matters. All right, part one, the robotic animation problem. The truth is, most beginners animate like machines. Every single action starts at the exact same moment. Every body part stops together. Every movement has identical spacing. Now, that might look mathematically clean on a computer monitor, but it completely lacks soul. I mean, unless you're deliberately trying to animate a broken 1980s microwave, this isn't gonna work. Real living creatures just do not operate on a perfectly synchronized, lifeless grid. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. Think about a completely natural everyday action, something as simple as reaching for a cup of coffee on your desk. You don't just lunge your entire torso, arm, and head forward at the exact same millisecond, right? It's a chain reaction. At time 0, your eyes dart toward the cup. At time +1, your head rotates to follow your gaze. Time +2, your shoulders engage. Time +3, the arm extends. And finally, at time +4, the fingers open to grasp. See, you already understand staggered motion intuitively in your daily life. Beginners just often forget to translate this micro timeline into their software. Natural motion is literally never perfectly synchronized. Which leads us directly into Section 2, Asymmetry as a Creative Methodology. So what exactly is the Asymmetric Keyframe Protocol? Well, it's a creative methodology where different body parts lead and follow at totally different times. Now, I want to emphasize a very, very crucial caveat right here. The Asymmetric Keyframe Protocol is not some established industry software standard. You can't just boot up Blender, Maya, or Unreal Engine and press a magic button labeled Asymmetric Protocol. It doesn't exist. It's a workflow. It's a creative mindset. It is the highly intentional staggering of keyframes so that the character feels like a connected, organic system instead of a bunch of separate mechanical moving pieces. Okay, now for the really fun part. Section 3, the step-by-step offset workflow. We're going to implement this staggered motion protocol using 4 distinct, easy-to-follow phases. Step 1, establish the main action. Step 2, add leading motion. Step 3, offset the follow-through. And Step 4, refine the timing. Let's break those down. Step 1 is all about establishing that main action. And the golden rule here, ignore the fingers and tiny details. I mean it. Focus purely on the strongest storytelling pose. When you first sit down to animate, you want to block out only the primary motion. Ask yourself, what is the character fundamentally trying to do? Are they jumping, turning, reaching for something, sitting down? Do not, I repeat, do not get bogged down in tweaking eyebrows or finger joints at this early stage. You've got to establish the macro movement before you can even think about nuancing the micro movements. Now, what's really interesting about this contrast between mechanical movement and intentional leading motion brings us right to Step 2. See, mechanical movement happens all at once. Bam, done. But intentional leading motion, that asks a vital question. Which body part would naturally initiate this specific action? If a character's looking at someone, well, the eyes usually lead, right?
If they're turning quickly because of a loud noise, the head is going to lead the body. Or if they're prepping to sprint, the hips might initiate the motion as they drop their weight. Picking the correct initiating body part completely transforms the action. It goes from feeling accidental to feeling utterly, undeniably intentional. Okay, so once you have your main action and your leading motion dialed in, you move straight to step 3, offsetting the follow-through. This is where you stagger the remaining body parts. You can't let everything stop on the exact same frame. Think about real-world physics and inertia. If a character finishes a heavy jump, their feet plant first, but the chest needs a few extra frames to settle. The shoulders are going to rotate just a fraction of a second later. The arms swing and slowly come to a rest. The hands, they finish last. Every single one of these small, meticulously placed delays adds a profound sense of weight and realism. It's what keeps the motion flowing seamlessly. And that brings us to the polish phase. Section 4, refining timing and emotion. Listen, timing communicates emotion just as much as a facial expression does. It's huge. Once your staggered motion is working, you have to adjust the spacing based on the specific action. For example, if your character is thinking or processing new information, you add pauses. Holding a pose for just an extra half second implies a heavy cognitive load. It shows they're thinking. Now, for moments of urgency or panic, you speed the motion up, letting parts snap into place faster. And for deep, emotional beats, you want to slow the transitions way down, easing gently, beautifully from pose to pose. You see, at this stage, you aren't just moving geometry around anymore. You are using the manipulation of time itself to express exactly what the character is feeling in their soul. Let's wrap this all together in Section 5, why this workflow matters. By adopting this workflow, you're unlocking so much. We're talking more natural body mechanics, way better weight and balance, and ultimately, far stronger visual storytelling that directly leads to better audience engagement. So the crucial point is this. Instead of just blindly copying animation curves from some generic software tutorial, you are making deeply intentional choices. Choices that support the specific character and the specific story you are trying to tell. You're basically building a connected system of movement that feels truly motivated. I really want to leave you with this final, pretty powerful thought. When you sit down at your desk tomorrow, are you just animating every body part on a digital grid? Or are you animating the actual intention behind the movement? Natural animation doesn't come from just throwing a million keyframes at a timeline. It comes from observation, really smart timing, and purposeful staggered choices. Try this workflow in your next project. Lead with the eyes, offset the body, refine the timing. I absolutely guarantee you'll notice your work feeling smoother, more expressive, and truly alive. Thanks so much for exploring this material with me today, and man, I cannot wait to see how you apply this intentionality to your own art.